If you've ever turned off the lights and immediately felt your body tense, like the air itself just got heavier, don't worry, you're not being dramatic. That was 10,000 years of human evolution grabbing you by the shoulders and whispering, "Do not get eaten in the night." Because here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. The dark is terrifying, even when nothing is in it. Even when you know nothing is there. Even when you just turn the lights off yourself. And even when you're a grown adult who pays taxes and knows how Wi-Fi works, you can believe in science, therapy, and home security systems and still look at a dark room and feel your stomach quietly fold in on itself like a piece of paper. And what makes this fear so fascinating is how universal it is. People all over the world, different cultures, different languages, different religions, have managed to disagree on almost everything. But darkness? Darkness has a 100% approval rating as scary. Welcome to the Waxenvein ledger, where we explore the unknown and catalogue what stares back. And tonight, we're starting with a fear that's ancient. So, I want to answer a question that seems simple until you stare at it long enough. Why do humans fear the dark? And more importantly, why does the fear feel so personal? Like the dark is looking back. Because this fear isn't childish. It isn't irrational. It isn't something you should be over. It's one of the oldest instincts we have. And the scariest part is that the dark doesn't even need to contain anything to win. It wins by taking something away. Information. When the lights go out, your world loses detail, edges blur, shapes fade, depth becomes guesswork, your eyes become unreliable narrators. And your brain absolutely hates that. Your brain is a prediction machine. It's constantly trying to anticipate what's going to happen next, because that's how humans survived long enough to invent scented candles and true crime podcasts. So when darkness removes your ability to see, your brain doesn't go, "Oh, no worries." Your brain goes, "I can't confirm we're safe." And then it does what it always does when it can't confirm safety. It assumes danger. Because in nature, uncertainty got you killed. If you're wandering in the dark and you hear something moving in the bushes, there are only two options. Option A, it's nothing. Option B, it's something that will rearrange your skeleton. And evolution doesn't reward the people who politely go investigate option B with a flashlight and optimism. It rewards the ones who say, "Nope," and leave. So if you're afraid of the dark, you're not broken. You're functioning correctly. That said, fear of darkness isn't always turned on. Because you can sit in a dark bedroom, relaxed, perfectly fine, but put that same darkness in a basement, an abandoned building, a forest, a quiet hallway at 2 a.m., and suddenly it feels hostile, like the air itself is watching. Why? Because the fear doesn't come from darkness itself. It comes from what darkness represents, the unknown. The dark is the perfect environment for uncertainty to breed, and uncertainty is the raw material your brain uses to manufacture horror. Think of it like this. When you can't see clearly, your brain starts filling in blanks the way a toddler fills in coloring books, aggressively, emotionally, and with no respect for reality. A coat hanging on the door becomes a hunched silhouette. A pile of clothes becomes something waiting. A shadow doesn't remain a shadow. It becomes a figure shaped exactly like the thing you hoped was not there. Even your hearing gets weird. The house creaks and your brain goes, "Someone is walking." A tiny tap on the window and your brain goes, "Don't look." It's almost funny, in a cruel kind of way. The moment the lights go out, your brain starts doing horror fan fiction. And this is where it gets even darker, literally. There's real evidence that your brain will create imagery when it can't access visual information. In one famous sensory deprivation experiment, participants were blindfolded continuously for several days and placed in a dark, low stimulation environment so their brains received almost no visual input. and the result was unsettling. After long enough without light, participants began hallucinating. Not little sparkles or vague shapes, full scenes, faces, people, landscapes. One person even reported seeing a green face. Another saw animals. Someone saw skulls, just their brain in pure darkness, generating images like a cursed movie projector. And that makes a twisted kind of sense. Your brain isn't built to sit peacefully in blank space. It hates emptiness, it hates gaps. So in darkness, when it lacks sensory data, it starts producing it. Not because it wants to scare you, but because it needs a world to operate in, even if it has to invent one. You know what that means, right? It means the dark is not empty, because you bring something into it every single time you stare into it, your imagination, and your imagination is unhinged. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, okay, sure, that's creepy, but I'm not hallucinating skulls in my hallway. Fair. But you don't need hallucinations for the fear to work, because the dark has one power it uses on everyone. It makes you doubt what you already know. You can stand in your kitchen and know your house is safe. But the moment you turn the lights off upstairs, the house becomes a different place. And then comes the oldest human ritual. You stare at the darkness and you don't move, because your mind is trying to answer a question your body asked first. Is there something there? You've experienced this. That feeling when you glance toward a dark doorway and your brain lights up with suspicion. The doorway isn't doing anything, it's just a doorway, but you're suddenly aware of how easy it would be for something to stand there and remain unseen. There is nothing there, or there is something there, and that second possibility, however ridiculous, has teeth, because it's possible. Darkness doesn't have to prove anything. It doesn't have to show you the monster. It just has to make room for it. Now let's make it worse, because darkness doesn't only make you imagine threats, it makes you feel watched. This is where the fear becomes intimate, personal, almost humiliating, because you can laugh at monster movies all day long. But at night, you might find yourself avoiding the windows, avoiding the corners, avoiding the hallway, avoiding looking in the open closet door because you've convinced yourself that something is hiding in there. And deep down, you know it's absurd. You know you're alone, but you still can't shake the feeling that you're being observed, or the idea that if you stare long enough, the dark will start staring back at you. And this isn't random. There's a reason this is one of the most common fears in humans. Being watched meant you were being hunted, and darkness provides perfect camouflage. It's why horror stories so often involve the same dreadful scenario. You wake up at night and you see something, a shape, a silhouette, a person, not moving, just there. And that's the real fear, not something attacking you, something waiting, a presence that doesn't rush because it doesn't need to, because in the dark, you are vulnerable. And that brings us to one of the most disturbing things about darkness. When you're in it long enough, it breaks you down. There's a story that makes this painfully clear, and it's one of the most terrifying examples of prolonged darkness ever recorded. In 2010, 33 Chilean miners were trapped underground after a cave-in. They were sealed inside the earth, no exit, no sunlight, no sense of time that felt real. And if you think the worst part was hunger, or heat, or claustrophobia, it wasn't. The worst part was the darkness. In later retellings and interviews, the darkness is described as unbearable, something that wears down the mind, a presence. And when you're trapped in that kind of dark, the mind begins to unravel, because humans aren't meant to exist without light. We orient ourselves through it. We regulate emotion through it. We track time through it. So when you remove light completely, you remove a psychological anchor. Days blur, nights become meaningless. The body gets confused. The mind starts producing horrors to make sense of the void. And that's another reason darkness terrifies us. It isn't just that you might not see danger, it's that you might lose yourself. That's why, if you've ever been alone at night and suddenly started spiraling into anxiety, existential dread, or weird intrusive thoughts, it's not because something's wrong with you, it's because darkness lowers the volume of the world and your inner world gets louder. There's no distraction, no sunlight, no evidence that life is continuing normally, just you and the void. And the void is not gentle. It doesn't soothe you. It gives you time to remember every terrifying possibility you've ever tried to ignore. And modern humans have one big disadvantage. We've made darkness optional. For most of human history, darkness was unavoidable. Night fell, everyone huddled together, fires burned, shadows moved, animals screamed in the distance. When the sun disappeared, the world belonged to something else. But now we can hold back the night with a lamp from Target. We can flood our homes with artificial light. We can doom scroll at 2 a.m. until our eyeballs dry out like raisins. So the moment darkness happens outside of our control, it hits different. A blackout, a storm, a power outage. Suddenly darkness stops being something you allow. It becomes something imposed. And that flips a switch in the brain, because now it feels like the world is back to its natural state, back to predator hours, back to vulnerability. It's why citywide blackouts terrify people even when nothing is technically happening. It's why emergency lights feel eerie. And that fear isn't irrational, because darkness is when uncertainty thrives. It's when danger becomes harder to detect. It's when people disappear. And worst of all, darkness is when your imagination gets to run unchecked. You don't even need a monster. You just need the possibility of one. So let's pull it all together. Why do humans fear the dark? Because the dark takes away sight, and sight equals certainty. Darkness forces your brain to operate on incomplete information. Your instincts treat uncertainty like a threat, and your imagination is not your friend when it's unsupervised. In the dark, you can feel watched, hunted, alone, like time itself is dissolving. And deep down, in the oldest part of your mind, you remember something ancient. In the dark, you don't know what's there. And if you don't know what's there, you can't prepare for it. That's the real terror. It's the not knowing. And there's something almost poetic about that. In the bleakest way possible. We don't fear the dark because it contains horror. We fear it because it can contain anything. It's like a blank page, and human beings have been writing monsters on it since the beginning. So the next time you catch yourself staring into the hallway at night, or avoiding a window, or speeding up as you cross a dark room, don't shame yourself. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It is protecting you from what you can't see, from what you can't confirm, from what might be there. And if this video made you feel a little uneasy, good. That means you're human. If you enjoyed this descent into fear, instinct, and the unknown, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and join me here in the Waxenvein ledger. And if you feel the sudden urge to turn the lights on after this, honestly, I don't blame you. I'll see you in the next entry.